Today on Family Talk.
Welcome, everyone, to Family Talk. It's, of course, a production of the James Dobson Family Institute. I'm your host, Dr. James Dobson. You know, every once in a while on this broadcast, we address some very painful and sensitive topics because the people that we're talking to, you, the listeners, are often going through those kinds of difficulties. Today we're focusing on the difficult subject of infidelity in marriage. Last fall, my colleague, Dr. Tim Clinton, sat down to better understand this issue through a conversation with Dr. Sheri Keffer. She has a PhD in marriage and family therapy with her own private practice in Newport, California. In a moment, she's going to discuss with Dr. Clinton the emotional wounds of adultery and share her own hurtful experience. Here she is, a therapist, and she's gone through some of the same problems. Before we begin, the content covered today may not be appropriate for children, so discretion is advised. Here now is Dr. Tim Clinton's interview with Dr. Sheri Keffer.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Tim Clinton, and you're listening to Family Talk. I'm here at the 2018 Mega National Christian Council Conference in Dallas, Texas. With me is a very special guest, Dr. Sheri Keffer. And Sheri, welcome into Family Talk.
Oh, thanks. Great to be here with you.
Sheri, as we get started, you're a professional in your own right. You help a lot of people every day. But you have a you have a book out that's a significant book called Intimate Deception. I want you to talk to us a little bit about what that means for a second, because this is not only a professional issue for you, it becomes a very personal story that I think our listeners are going to really be endeared to.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, Tim, that you say that. Sometimes books come out of our deepest pain, and this is one of those books, because when I went through this, there wasn't a lot of resources in knowing how to heal the wounds of sexual betrayal. And it was my story. I can remember kind of the spark that started this. I was doing a radio show, and there was a pastor's wife that called in, and she was struggling in her marriage, and her husband was looking at porn. And I remember hearing it, and I thought, do I say anything? But I decided I could just hear inside, go, go, go. And so I said, hey, Liz, this is Sheri, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I've been right where you're at. I also had a marriage that had, and in my case, it was pornography, sexual betrayal, was affairs, prostitutes. And so I get the pain that happens when you experience the betrayal of someone who you thought would guard your heart, would protect you. I mean, when you take your vows, you take them knowing that that person's going to love you, protect you, guide you. But when that person, that very person, betrays you, it's devastating beyond words. And so my goal has been to write a resource that can help women and men heal after they've experienced the heartache of betrayal.
Sheri, do you remember where you were when it all came together for you and you realized what was going on?
Tim, every person remembers where they were. They can even remember what they were wearing, where they were sitting. And for me, it was looking at a phone bill that I discovered, which is kind of a neutral thing, right? You get bills in. But I remember seeing this charge for what it's called a 900 number. And it was an $80 charge. And I thought, that's a lot of money for who did he call? Or who? I didn't call that number. So I called, and it was a sex line. And there was one piece of information, Tim, I knew before I got married, and that was my former husband, Connor, is the name I give him, called a 900 number, and he told me. But I thought it was a one-time event. I didn't understand what it was, and I did what I thought I should do, is I forgave him, because I looked at myself and I thought, I'm not perfect. And so I forgave him and never looked back. I didn't ask any deeper questions. I didn't say, is this something you do often? So when that happened, 6 months into our marriage, as he began to pull away from me sexually, I got very confused. I would go up to him when he was, washing the dishes, and I'd try to nibble on his ear, and he would pull away from me. I didn't understand what the disconnect was about. But when somebody is looking at porn and somebody is acting out, they're not connected to you. They can't connect to you because that other person or other people, the porn or live people, are in the way. And I knew there was a problem. I just didn't know how big it was.
As the story unraveled, what did you find out about him? What he was involved with and more? It was like stunning.
Yeah. What I knew was the pornography. What I didn't know is we entered into 4 years of therapy. What I didn't know is during that period of time, he was also sexually acting out. He was having affairs with other women. Now, I didn't know that. My therapist didn't know that. He kept a secret from both of us. Even though I was going individually, he was going individually. We were in couples counseling. So we weren't lacking for care. But the integrity of his treatment wasn't there. He wasn't willing to go to a 12-step group. He wasn't willing to go in and do the work and get accountable with other men. And so because of that, things just grew. They got bigger, and it was all happening underground.
Sheri, when this happens, and I know there are probably many people listening right now who this might be their story or they've been down this road. When it hits, what starts happening to you? What unravels, I guess, in your life personally? Can you talk about it? Because a lot of people think there's blame shifting going on. There's chaos on trying to make sense of this new world, of this story. There's like this sense of, insanity almost that takes over.
Yeah. It's like a tsunami. It completely decimates. It decimates your world as you knew it, and it begins to erode the very core of who you are. So first you're in shock. I called it, well, my therapist at that time said I was sucker punched, when he said, Sheri, you've been sucker punched. And I thought, I didn't know a girl could ever feel so good hearing that I've been sucker punched, but that's exactly what it was. Shame. Shame is an amazing thing. The way our brain works is shame wires in a negative belief about ourself. Like Velcro, it sticks to our soul. And so thoughts like this, I'm not enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not sexy enough. I don't have what it takes. I can't trust him. I'm definitely not in control. And I felt so helpless in it all. And so all that shame layered in on my life eroded the very core of who I was. And whoever that girl was before this happened was no more. I was gutted.
You use the word trauma throughout your book, Intimate Deception. Healing the wounds of sexual betrayal. Weave in that term for us and help us understand how it applies here, because it really is traumatic.
Yeah.
It's like a bomb has just come out of nowhere and dropped into your life, and it's just blown up everything, and it's affecting everything. I want to talk about everything it affects, but why do you use the word trauma? And I know you use a little term, trauma-induced shame belief.
I'm glad you like that, Tim.
I like that. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so that's what they really are. It's trauma-induced shame beliefs, meaning that when these painful events happen to us, they're wired in thoughtfully and emotionally. They're resistant to change. So they need specialized treatment, treatment that's like EMDR or other things that've got to get you into that thoughtful, emotional place to heal again. It's God's way, and I would say the brain's way of trying to protect ourselves. Because if I believe that can't trust anyone, and I'm not good enough, and I am not safe, I'm in danger, do you think I'm going to go outside? No, I'm going to stay isolated in my house. I can guarantee that I'm not going to be hurt.
It's going to be tough to get out of bed.
Yeah. And
I don't want to see anybody.
Exactly.
I don't want to talk to anybody.
And I
don't want to discuss this with anybody.
I got depressed, Tim. For 4 years, I knew this stuff was going on. For 4 years. This is before we got into therapy. But I knew if I shared my story, I knew if I spoke one word, everything would change. And the day came when I was so depressed that we were at a retreat up in the hills, and I just couldn't fake it anymore. And a little gal came to my door and asked me to go to dinner, and she told me before I told her I was sick. I wasn't, I'm depressed. Let me tell you what's going on in my marriage. I didn't want to say that, right? But I said, I'm just not feeling well. And she goes, oh, I'm so sad. I wanted to have dinner with you. And she started walking away, and she said, Sheri, I hope to marry someone just like Connor someday. And you could have hit me with a 2x4, because I thought, no, honey, you don't want this. This is painful. The layers of trauma, Tim, I call them the dirty dozen, right? There's discovery trauma. That's when you first find this stuff. There's disclosure trauma, when you go into a truth-telling process and you find out what really happened, right? There's faith trauma, spiritual trauma. I was mad at God for a long time. I was so hurt. How could this happen to me? There's community problems, right? Community trauma. When you look at your friends and they hear, some of them know, some of them don't know. But it's like you have leprosy. Everybody pulls away. There's so many layers of hurt. There's sexual trauma, STDs. I got one, and it's in my book. My husband now said, are you sure you want to have that in your book? I said, yes, I want to put that in my book, because I want people to know you can't take this lightly. You need to go get tested. You need to take this seriously, because I don't want you to end up with something, because shame makes you not want to go to the doctor. You don't want to tell that story. You don't want to know the truth. So you deal with symptoms, but they can turn into cancer if you're not taking care of yourself. So I'm passionate about that. But those are some of the layers that are part of that dirty dozen.
And Sheri, in the midst of all that, I mentioned the word insanity. Your brain starts kind of getting lost, or maybe it gets very focused. In other words, it pulls into where the only thing you can think about is what's going on. The only thing you feel is what's going on. And some use the word ruminating. Your mind just becomes consumed and lost, and it spins, and you think you're going crazy. And then you've got all this, you're right, trauma, pressure, stuff that's around you, affecting how you feel about yourself, your kids, your money, your health, your spirituality, your friendships, your everything.
Yeah.
It's in a total chaotic spin, and I'm lost, and all I'm doing is thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and I can't break free. It's like I'm stuck.
Yeah. Well, the brain is stuck. I got to work with Dr. Amen for 5 years, working on trauma at the Amen clinics. And so he allowed me in my book to put in a survey. Because I wanted the women to know what is going on in my brain. And at Amen clinics, when they take a SPECT scan, there's something called a diamond pattern. And it's in the chapter called, This is When a Diamond's Not a Girl's Best Friend. Because most of us that go through betrayal end up with this diamond pattern. And it's exactly what you said, Tim. It is that part of the brain is called a cingulate gyrus, which is the gear shift of the brain. It gets stuck and focused. And then the basal ganglia are the anxiety parts of the brain. Those are like gas pedals, and they are on high. And then there's the limbic system. The deep thalamus is where you hold highly charged emotional memories. So you got all three of those things going at the same time. It's literally like being in a hamster wheel in your head, and your brain has been impacted too. It's been kindled up, turned up. And so our brains need treatment as well.
Sheri, in that spin for a second, it's like, what do you do? And most who go through this go through it alone. They're not talking to anyone.
Yeah.
They don't have any resources.
Yeah.
The truth is, most people, you're right, treat you like you have leprosy. They don't want to talk because maybe they don't know what to say or what to do.
Or they don't want to get it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think so often some of my girlfriends, I remember, I've got some really true blue friends that have been with me for decades now, but I did have some that were actually afraid that I might encroach on their husbands, with their, and they get afraid. It's like, I don't want to catch this. So painful, isolation, right? You feel shame. Disconnected. What's wrong with me?
You're listening to Family Talk. It's a ministry produced by Dr. James Dobson's Family Institute. I'm your host today. I'm Dr. Tim Clinton. Our special guest in studio, Dr. Sheri Keffer. Brand new book, Intimate Deception, Healing the Wounds of Sexual Betrayal. Fascinating conversation, a really tough journey. Everybody out there listening saying, gotcha. Okay, we're with you. What in the world do you do?
Yeah.
Where do you go? Somebody help turn the switch off because I can't take anymore. Crying out to God saying, God, would you turn the switch off? Would you do something miraculous? I mean, part the Red Sea here, please, God. And it seems like the more I cry out, the more lost. It's like the ruminating cycle continues to spin and spin. And it's like, God, are you going to show up? Is somebody going to show up? Somebody. Where do we go?
Well, the first thing I want to say to you, please, 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 don't try to do this alone. I know that's what you feel you want to do, but I'm going to ask you to do the brave thing and to reach out for support. The second thing I want to say is I want you to get into community of other partners, of other betrayed women or men that have been where you're at. And then I'm going to ask you to do something which is going to feel very selfish, but I'm going to ask you to get your own care. It often feels selfish to partners to invest in themselves, or we are so mad at the person that's betraying us that we point the finger and say, you go get help, you get that fixed, and I'll wait while you're doing that. But I'm going, hey girl, it happens to you. No one else can heal your body but you. You've got to take responsibility and get your healing for your sake. And then this is the fourth, and I would say the wild card, the master of ceremonies. God is coming for you. I've got a place on my website that's called God Sightings. And I got to tell you, Tim, God has been showing up in this since the inception. In fact, in Dallas, Texas, this was a few years ago when I did a workshop, when I was doing a seminar on these shame beliefs and helping the women lay a shame belief down, there was a double rainbow over the Hyatt Regency in Dallas, Texas. That was the beginning of what's called God Sightings, where I see God showing up in different ways at these workshops, and it's on my webpage. But I want you to know most certain that God does care for you. He's fighting for you, and he's actually fighting for your marriage. He's fighting to turn things around. And so whether you believe that or not, I know I was where you are. But I want to believe for you, and I want you to get into help, and I want the person you're married to, your significant other, I want them to get into good treatment so that they can heal and turn this thing around as well.
Sheri, two things stick out in my mind listening to you. The word complex. This is complex. And earlier you said, Tim, I was really depressed.
Yep.
I got lost. And I talked a little bit about ruminating.
Yep.
It really concerns me when the mind gets lost, because I've seen it happen to people, and that's where it goes back to being really complex. So when you say reach out and get help, what we're saying is, yes, you as a couple need help.
Yes.
If you're in this, we got that. But you personally need help.
Yes.
Because this is a balm. And these balms, they don't care who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, they traumatize you.
Yep.
And when we talk about that kind of help, what does that mean? Because you were saying the brain gets lost and more. It's just about, we talk about collaborative care, going and seeing a physician.
Right, the body. I have a whole chapter in my book called The Bodyguard where I have created these characters called Ugg, Amy, and the CEO. It's the primal brain, our thoughtful mind, and our relational mind. The three things they're asking is, am I safe? Am I loved? And what do I think I need to do? And so it's body, brain, mind, soul, and spirit, Tim. Every layer is impacted. And there's no way over it but to go through it and to get your healing and invest in you.
Sure. What I love about what you're saying is years ago, Dr. Dobson wrote a book called Love Must Be Tough. And in it, he made a strong statement about there are times when you got to do tough love stuff.
Yep.
You know that?
Yep.
You got to put boundaries in play. That's part of the deal here.
It is part of the deal, Tim.
And that's about your healing. You've got to insulate or protect yourself because you can't take repeated blows. You can't sit there and just let them pound and pound and pound, or let life pound and pound and pound without getting any, hey, somebody call the cavalry.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I was saying earlier, you're begging God, God will show up. I love what you're saying, but God.
Yeah.
But God. You know, why is my soul cast down? The psalmist said, hope thou in God. God show up, and he shows up in a lot of different ways.
Setting boundaries is a critical component in that. And yet, so often I see in the very beginning of this, in the inception, there's those shame beliefs that I'm weak, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve. to ask for what I need. And so I'm walking wounded. And they have a hard time fighting for their families or even standing up.
Well, it's
for
a
what is
complex
right.
time too, Sheri, and because no one wants their family to blow up.
No,
Nobody wants to
no.
lose anything. Everybody wants everything to go back to normal. You hear what I'm saying? And
Yep.
so you're in there, and there's a reason why women have a hard time, for example, putting boundaries in place. You know, because, I mean, you're looking at possibly losing all your money, everything you know, your identity, the whole thing, and you don't do that alone.
Yeah.
You need somebody to help you understand all this stuff, because you're just going to drop potentially another bomb in this whole thing on top of what's already gone off, right?
Yeah, and so that's why I think one of the bravest things a woman can do, or a man can do for that matter, if he's being betrayed, is to step up and step into getting help. Because, like I did, right, I didn't do anything. I knew it was happening. And yeah, we were in therapy, but I didn't press the boundaries firm enough, and stuff just continued to grow underground. So don't do that. Step up, get some help. Put your bravery on. I talk about this in the book. The word ezerkenegdo, I think, has not really in our Bible has been interpreted in the deep Hebrew words for that. I met with a guy named Dr. Frank Seekins, and that word actually means warrior ally, warrior strength. We were named after God. That term has been used in the name of God in light of battle. So I think that it's in our spiritual DNA as women to press in and fight for our family, but we've got to step in. We've got to take that first step. We can't collude with what's going on in our families. We need to stand up, join forces, lock arms, and fight this battle, because it's eroding our families, it's eroding our nation, and we got to stop it.
Sheri, we're fighting time here. Is it over for her? Is it over for the marriage?
I want to say, you're hearing from somebody who, my marriage was a casualty, but my life has been anything but that. I see marriages get through this.
I have too.
Yeah, and so it is possible. And actually, the ones that get through this come out stronger. They're resilient because now they know each other. Now they've grown through these trust issues, and they're more attuned to watch each other's back.
But some of them don't make it.
They don't.
That's what even Jesus acknowledged that in Matthew 19.
Yep.
He did.
Yeah, and you need two people.
But
right?
here's the deal. It doesn't need to be a repeated blow after blow journey here.
Yeah.
In this process, and I think that's the message we're trying to get through. Sheri, I want to turn the mic solely to you, and I want you to speak to our listeners today. It could be him or her driving right now, and that's where they're at. They're living in this. It could be some who are going into it. It could be some who are on the other side, and they're trying to find their way. Give me the one or two key things that God has given to you as a gift in this whole piece, as kind of a parting way to speak into all of our lives.
I think the first gift would be one of comfort, right? I would say, I see you. I get right where you're at, and I'm heartbroken over what's happening to you and what's happening to your family. And so the first gift would be, just so you know, I know, and you're not alone. The second thing that I really feel that God has laid on my heart is we've got to get healed. And in my book, Tim, it is 20 chapters. Somebody said, you probably should have made this 3 different books. And I said, no. You know why? I didn't want to leave anything out. I just wanted everything to be on the table so somebody reading this could know what they needed to do to heal their brain, body, mind, soul, heart, and their faith. And so please pick the book up as your roadmap for healing, because I care about you. Tim cares about you, right? We all care about you. We want you healed, and we want you whole, and we want your family out of this dark pit that you're in right now, because you can do it. You can make it.
Our special guest again today, Dr. Sheri Keffer, her work, Intimate Deception. Sheri, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
This is Roger Marsh, and I pray that today's broadcast of Family Talk really spoke to you. If you are suffering through marital unfaithfulness, I want you to know that your broken heart can be healed. It is painful right now, but we serve a loving God who is always there for you. He can redeem and restore anyone or any situation. I encourage you to visit our broadcast page at drjamesdobson.org. There you'll find information about Dr. Keffer's book, Intimate Deception. Once you're there, you'll also find information about her ministry and how you can get in touch with her directly. That's drjamesdobson.org, and then click onto the broadcast page. Well, we have come to the end of this edition of Family Talk. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for a great message from Dr. Ravi Zacharias. I hope you'll join us then. Thanks so much for listening today and for supporting the James Dobson Family Institute.
This has been a presentation of the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute.